Reading from Seth-Dreams and Projections of Consciousness by Jane Roberts. Chapter 14 on Dreams and Health, on Illness and Action. Seth says, illnesses can be seen as impeding actions, representing actual blockages of energy, action turned into channels that are not to the best interests of the personality. The energies appear concentrated and turned inward, affecting the whole system. They represent offshoots, not necessarily detrimental in themselves, except when viewed from the standpoint of other actions that form the personality framework. A certain portion of the energy practically available to the personality is spent in the maintenance of this impeding action or illness. It is obvious then that less energy is available for actions more beneficial to the personality system as a whole. The situation can be serious in varying degrees, according to the impetus and intensity of the original cause behind the illness. If the impetus is powerful, then the impeding action will be of more serious nature, blocking huge reserves of energy for its own purposes. It obviously becomes part of the personality's psychological structure, the physical, the electrical, and chemical structures, invading to some extent even the dream system. Jane questions, and here Seth explains something that many people often wonder about. If illness is detrimental and we know it, then why does poor health linger at times? Seth states, at times, illness is momentarily accepted by the personality as a part of the self, and here lies its danger. It is not just symbolically accepted, and I am not speaking in symbolic terms. The illness is often quite literally accepted by the personality structure as a portion of the self. Once this occurs, a conflict instantly develops. The self does not want to give up a portion of itself, even if that part may be painful or disadvantageous. Jane notes, this has serious implications. Obviously, the easiest time to cure an illness is before it is accepted as a part of the self-image. Seth goes on in this session to explain some of the other deeper reasons for the continuance of symptoms and our acceptance of them. For one thing, while pain is unpleasant, it is also a method of familiarizing the self against the edges of quickened consciousness. Any heightened sensation, pleasant or unpleasant, has a stimulating effect upon consciousness to some degree. It is a strong awareness of activity and life. Even when the stimulus may be extremely annoying or humiliatingly unpleasant, certain portions of the psychological framework accept it undiscriminatingly because it is a vivid sensation. This acquiescence to even painful stimuli is a basic part of the nature of consciousness and a necessary one. Even a quick and automatic rejection or withdrawal from such a stimulus is, in itself, a way by which consciousness knows itself. The ego may attempt to escape such experiences, but the basic nature of action itself is the knowing of itself in all aspects. In a very deep manner, action does not differentiate between enjoyable and painful actions. These differentiations come later on another level of development, but because personality is composed of action, it contains within it all action's characteristics. Jane states, Seth continues to describe the ways in which various kinds of consciousness react to painful stimuli, ending up with a statement that at deepest cellular levels, all sensations and stimuli are instantly, automatically, and joyfully accepted, regardless of their nature, at this level no knowledge of threat exists, the I, the letter I, the I differentiation is not definite enough to fear destruction. Seth goes on. Here we have action knowing itself and realizing its basic indestructibility. It has no fear of destruction, for it is also a part of the destruction from which new actions will evolve. The complicated organism of human personality with its physical structure has evolved a highly differentiated I consciousness, whose very nature is such that it attempts to preserve the apparent boundaries of identity. To do so, it must choose between actions. But beneath the sophisticated gestalt are the simpler foundations of its being, and, indeed, the very acceptance of all stimuli without which identity would be impossible. Without this acquiescence, the physical structure would never maintain itself, for the atoms and molecules within it constantly accept painful stimuli and suffer even their own destruction. They are aware of their own separateness within action and of their reality within it. Now, you should understand why even an impeding action can be literally accepted by the personality as a part of itself, and why efforts must be made to coax the personality to give up a portion of itself if progress is to be made. We are also helped, however, by several characteristics of the personality, in that it is ever-changing, and its flexibility will be of benefit. We merely want to change the direction in which some of its energy moves. It must be seen by the personality that the impeding action is a hardship on the whole structure, and that this particular part of the self is not basic to the original personality. The longer the impeding action is accepted, the more serious the problem. Jane questions, but can an illness ever serve a good purpose? Yes, according to Seth. Seth states, the whole focus of a personality can change from constructive areas to a concentration of main energies in the area of the illness. Now, in such a case, often the illness represents a new unifying system. If the old unifying system of personality has broken down, the illness serving as a makeshift, temporary emergency measures may hold the integrity of the personality intact until a new constructive unifying principle replaces the original. In this case, the illness could not be called an impeding action unless it persisted long after its purpose was served. Even then, without knowing all the facts, you could not make a judgment, for the illness could still serve by giving the personality a sense of security, being kept on hand as an ever-present emergency device in case the new unifying principle should fail. Unifying principles are groups of actions about which the whole personality forms itself at any given time. These may change and do change in a relatively smooth fashion when action is allowed to flow unimpeded. When action is not allowed to follow the patterns or channels for its expression that have been evolved by the personality, then blockages of energy occur. These must be understood not as something apart from the personality, but as a part of the changing personality. Often they point out the existence of inner problems. Often they serve temporary functions, leading the personality from other more severe areas of difficulty. I am not saying here that illness is good. I am saying that it is a part of the action of which any personality is composed, and therefore it is purposeful and cannot be considered an alien force that attacks the individual from without. Jane states, In this particular session, Seth is describing illness as a part of action, but as he makes clear, this is not meant to imply any negation of psychological or psychic values. The nature of action, however, is important, for Seth states, "The personality is simultaneous action. It is composed of actions within actions. Portions of it are conscious of its awareness as a part of action, and portions try to stand aside from action. This attempt forms the ego, which is itself action. If illness were thrust upon action or upon the personality from the outside, then the individual would be at the mercy of outside agencies, but it is not. Personality is affected by outside agencies, but in a most basic manner, it chooses the actions which it will accept. An illness can be rejected. The habit of illness can be rejected. When action is allowed to flow freely, then neurotic rejections of action will not occur. An illness is almost always the result of another action that cannot be carried through. When the lines to the repressed action are released and the channels to it opened, such an illness will vanish. However, the thwarted action may be one with disastrous consequences, which the illness may prevent." So Jane writes, "Let's consider Sue's symptoms, which are pain in her shoulder blade, where she can't even put her hands in her pocket. Pain just to move her arm and her fingers. So let's consider Sue's symptoms caused by explosive and repressed aggression in relation to Seth's statements. Sue had been taught as a child to repress emotions, but the time had come when expression was imperative. She wanted to strike out but didn't feel that she should, and the denied actions then inhibited the function of the right arm that would ordinarily do the striking. According to Seth, even the calcium deposits were accumulations of repressed energy stored up in the body. In her dream, Sue was given information that told her how to release and use this energy creatively. While she remembered the dream clearly and saw its instant results, the information was not given to the conscious self, not even in the dream drama, but to other layers more intimately concerned with the body-mind mechanisms. Complete mobility of the arm and shoulder resulted, but there was still some soreness from the calcium deposits that remained." So obviously I've not read you guys that dream, but I'm going to keep going here. A few weeks after the dream, Sue had another therapeutic experience that straddled dreaming and waking reality. She was reading a book on the life of Edgar Cayce when her shoulder began to ache. Suddenly, she had the urge to leaf through the book to a paragraph she'd noticed earlier on yoga exercises for brusitic shoulders. As she read this, she heard a loud voice say, "Put wet tea bags on it." Startled, Sue looked up. The voice almost sounded as if it came from a radio. Again, it said, "Put wet tea bags on it." Sue noted. "So I went and got some tea bags, feeling awfully silly. I wondered if I should put them directly on the shoulder, and the voice said, 'Directly.' I took off my blouse, lay down, and put the tea bag on the top of the shoulder joint. Lower, underneath is the problem. The top is only an outcropping,' the voice said. So I turned over, moved the bags down, and suddenly tuned into a dialogue going on in my head. There were two voices, one slightly louder than the other, discussing this. 'For how long?' asked the second voice. 1/2 hour, answered the first voice. 'How many days?' 'Every day. It should only take 6 days, but the condition must be understood more clearly.' 60 days. At this point, I began to feel sleepy. 'Relax,' the loud voice said. Relax the forefingers, relax the legs, allow circulation, breathe in life, breathe out poison. I dozed for 10 minutes. When I woke up, the pain was gone. I've been doing the yoga exercises and using the tea bags, and the pain hasn't returned. So 2 weeks later, Sue was awakened in the middle of the night by the same two voices. How is the condition now? Asked the first voice. Much better, the second voice replied. Yoga exercises are repairing the effects worked on the physical system. She is also learning not to channel aggressions onto the shoulder. After 6 days of the treatment, all soreness disappeared, as did the calcium lumps. Since then, Sue was bothered by the shoulder during a few stressful periods, but she learned that a simple reading of the original Seth-Dream immediately returned the shoulder to normal once again. These experiences were highly valuable and produced undeniable physical results which last as long as Sue allows for normal release and expression of emotional energy. According to Seth, poor health is caused mainly by destructive mental and feeling patterns that directly affect the body because of the particular range within the electromagnetic system in which they fall. Bad health, for example, does not happen first, resulting in unhealthy thoughts. It is the other way around. Seth states, illness must be treated primarily by changing the basic mental habits. Unless this is done, the trouble will erupt again and again in different guises. The system has the ability to heal itself, however, and every opportunity should be given to allow it to do so. In most cases, the stimuli toward healing come from deeper levels of the self, where they may be translated into terms that the personal subconscious can use. In such cases, these perceptions may find their way to the ego, appearing as inspirations or intuitive thought. Many such intuitions appear when the personality is dissociated or in a dream state. The effect of any thought is quite precise and definite and set into motion because of the nature of its own electromagnetic identity. The physical body operates within certain electromagnetic patterns and is adversely affected by others. These effects change the actual molecular structure of the cells for better or worse, and because of the laws of attraction, habitual patterns will operate. A destructive thought, then, is dangerous not only to the present state of the organism, but is also dangerous in terms of the future.